So I started really getting into languages when I was almost about 26, and it has been its own journey, an emotional roller coaster of just challenges and struggles, from comparing myself to others to inconsistent practice, and of course, not knowing what the heck I'm doing. And in this video, we're gonna go through each one and address it on its own, because me, you, and probably so many other people are going through this exact same thing, either right now, or we're going through it in the past, or are planning on learning a language in the future and are pre-planning on going through it. So let's grab our water, lemonade, popcorn, whatever you need, and let's discuss it. The good old-fashioned comparing yourself to others. That is literally so popular that not only in language learning, but it exists in all aspects of our lives. And can I be honest, this one, at least to me, is like so stupid, because if you take a look at your own situation, like for example, me, I don't live in the country where my target language is. I have a busy schedule and I have other responsibilities, and I've only been learning for a year. And then if I compare that to somebody else's situation who's maybe started learning from the age of 14 and is currently living in that country where that language is spoken and is speaking on a regular, consistent basis, like, duh, obviously our progress is not going to be the same. I'd consider it a good week if I even got 1 hour of speaking practice in a week. So we really need to look outside of ourselves and truly realize that the way we learn and how other people learn is completely different, and it might take longer to get to the same place as another person. But the only person that we really need to be comparing ourselves to is ourselves, and it's only at that point that we can start celebrating the small wins and the small successes that we have. Like in my situation, now, if I was like a year ago, if I looked at some Chinese characters, I wouldn't know what the freak it was saying, and I would have no idea on how to pronounce it. And now, am I fluent? Am I even conversational? No. But the fact that I even understand 5 sentences or even 5 words, and I can say even a little bit, is just so exciting to me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even understand this a couple of months ago, and now I understand it. Hey. Now, if I could be reborn as a child in another country for any of the languages that I'm currently learning, so I don't have to learn grammar purposely and I could just pick it up without even trying, oh, that would be so wonderful. But that's not possible. And so I have to actually learn grammar on purpose, which is actually quite difficult, because some of them don't exist in my native language, and it doesn't make sense. And when I try to use it in an actual conversation, the brain just suddenly stops braining, and I'm just looking around like, help me. But we have a secret weapon for this, and that is context. Because if I'm learning grammar just by itself, I'm pretty much just relying on English explanations and translations to kind of understand what it means and also how to use it, which, depending on the language I'm learning, isn't really going to help, like, at all. But surprisingly, a lot of languages have similarities in how they express excitement and anger and sadness and frustration. So you put a couple of example sentences in front of my face in some real life situations, and all of a sudden, gold. And then it starts to stick, because now I'm changing a couple words here and there. I'm adding other words, and I'm just starting to make the sentence my own in a way that relates to my situation. And when that happens, that's when it sticks. And honestly, I like to think of grammar as a puzzle, where I'm just noticing patterns pop up over and over again. And it's at this moment where I stop guessing and I almost start predicting. Like for my situation with Italian, I didn't even really learn past tense because I just kept seeing it over and over and over again. And I was just thinking of, wait a second. So if I just remove this end of the verb and change it to this, you're telling me I get past tense? Okay. Now, am I getting it right all the time and do 100% of the verbs work like that? No, but I'm like 95% chance of being right. So that works for me. This one stumps a lot of us as adults because we're constantly striving for perfection, and we don't want to be embarrassed by our speaking level that sounds like a 2-year-old, because when a 2-year-old starts speaking in broken sentences, everybody thinks it's cute and it's adorable. Oh, wow. But when I start speaking, all of a sudden it sounds like, well, nothing. And it's just awkward silence and they're just staring at me, confused. And thus, I never end up speaking because I just start thinking it's better to never fail than to fail at all. And if I keep going down that road, I'll never get better at speaking, unfortunately. So, short answer, get over it. At least that's what I tell myself when I'm starting to feel that way. And there's so many reasons. Number one, mistakes are an opportunity to learn. Like, I don't know if it's the embarrassment or the stumbling, but if I make a mistake or if I say the wrong word when I'm talking with somebody else, that stuff sticks in my head and I will never, ever, ever make that mistake again, most likely. And if I am talking and I never get corrected or I never realize that I said something wrong, then that takes away the opportunity for me to grow and for me to improve. And another reason, I have to think to myself, like, wait, when somebody is speaking to me in English and say they're a beginner, I am never thinking to myself, oh, look at this stupid person. They can't speak English. Aha. Like, I'm never thinking that ever. I'm always like trying to be as patient as possible, and I'm trying to help fill in the blanks and trying to understand them as best possible so that we can have a conversation. So why is it that when I'm talking to somebody else, I'm thinking that I think that they're thinking the worst of me, and that's like, oh, this person's so stupid. She can't speak Japanese or Italian properly. Like, that is so wrong. I just don't even understand that. And if you're still nervous to speak with other people, then feel free to book a lesson with a tutor. It's like way less pressure when speaking, because I guess when you're talking with a teacher, it's kind of expected that you make mistakes. So the pressure is a little bit less and the situation's a little bit better. But if somebody were to, belittle you or insult you or mock you because your speaking skills were not up to par, they're a clown. And you probably wouldn't have gotten along with them or even had a pleasant conversation with them, even if you were a native lip. This one hits hard for me because it literally was me. I would study one day and then a couple months would go by and then I would study again. And the problem with this is that because I was only studying one day and not studying or touching that language again for a couple months, I was forgetting everything that I just learned a couple months ago, and I was not reviewing everything. So I would constantly just be relearning the same things over and over again. Like, the amount of times I have learned the Japanese alphabet and like simple words like dog and cat and person in Japanese over and over again is absolutely insane. And because of that, I was always feeling like I never was actually improving, and I was just always restarting the same thing over and over again. And a part of this was because I never really understood where to start and what resources to use. So I never really had a goal to work towards, and I always felt like I was just kind of floating in the ether. But I figured out what worked best for me and what textbooks and apps suited me best, which I will talk about more for both Japanese and Italian in future videos. But it wasn't until then that I realized that it's also really important to plan out realistic study routines. Like, don't plan a 3-hour study routine because you got the time to do it on the weekends and you were able to do it for a couple of days because it was the weekends, and now it's the week and you realize you only got 30 minutes and you can't do it and you're not gonna be able to keep it up at all. I know, because that was me. Hi. So make sure to always plan out realistic study routines that you can keep to a consistent basis throughout the weekend and throughout the week, because consistency is better than intensity. And now is the infamous ever so present plateau, where you're understanding so much, but you're speaking at the same level you were a year ago. Like, I can literally go on YouTube and watch a video of the socioeconomic status of the world, but I can't ask for help about why my air conditioner isn't working. And I just end up feeling so stuck despite all the effort that I put in. And it is at this moment that you and me, this is the time to be putting in, or at least putting out more output and not just input. We need to be speaking more and writing more and, listening to simple sentences or maybe even longer sentences and being able to copy what is being said and, repeat what's being said from memory until it becomes our own and we can basically do it like it's second nature, because speaking is also a skill. And if you never practice speaking, of course, we're never gonna get better at actually speaking. And also another thing, we gotta pay attention to the simple things, the mundane things that we don't really pay attention or have an interest in. And this is something even I struggle at and hate doing. And that's probably why I can't ask for help about why my air conditioner isn't working. But if you're watching a vlog in your target language and they are talking about regular things that they have to do in a day, or like, calling customer service or asking about the air conditioner. Why am I talking so much about air conditioners? Anyway, also, putting in an order at a store or, house hunting, then make sure to repeat those sentences and pay extra attention to those rather than, oh, I understand what they're saying. So as long as I understand what they're saying, it's fine. Like, being able to say it yourself at the same time and being able to make that your own and you being able to actively put out that information is also really important, sadly. So if you think that learning a new language as an adult is impossible, don't feel discouraged. I want you to kick that thought to the side, because as long as you are constantly showing up, even imperfectly, progress is still happening, whether you notice it or not. So let's keep improving together, and thanks for hanging out as always. Bye.